could see myself before, so that's what Hey there, everybody. It is your girl, Coach Leah, and it is a terrific Tuesday. Welcome to Coach Leah's After the Whistle. Let's go. I'm so happy that you guys decided to join us live here today. And if you weren't able to catch us live, we so are appreciative of the fact that you're going to catch us whenever you have time. This is going to be a great show. Before we get into our special featured guests, I want to talk a little bit about a few trending topics that are in social media. First thing I want to talk about is the fact that we are so thrilled to announce that the WNBA All-Stars Breanna Stewart and Ephrasia Collier are launching a women's basketball winter league. According to a recent report by People magazine, this Winter League, named Unrivaled, aims to provide an exciting alternative for players who traditionally play abroad during the off-season. One of our guests today, you'll get to hear about that as well. With the talent and passion of these two exceptional athletes and national champion teammates while at UConn, we can expect an incredible showcase of women's basketball during the winter months. Stay tuned right here at Coach Leah's After the Whistle for more updates and exciting about this exciting venture. So, speaking of All-Stars, we're sending our most sincere condolences to everyone in the women's basketball community for the loss of Nikki McCray last Friday. Nikki was a two-time Olympic gold medalist, an All-Star in the WNBA, and a national champion while at the University of Tennessee. We're sending love and light to the Lady Vols, Rutgers women's basketball, where she was an assistant recently, and the USA basketball community, as well as all of the WNBA. Now, on a lighter note, as mentioned yesterday during my Monday visit with the Conversation with Al McFarland, and as a shameless plug, the 19th NBA All-Star Game is in Las Vegas this Saturday, July 15th. Although it's been said that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, I will be there to provide our insight news and Coach Leah's After the Whistle audience's up close and behind the scenes coverage of this weekend's festivities, featuring the Las Vegas Aces Foundation newly appointed Executive Director, Danielle Fontenot. And last shameless plug, but certainly not least, Coach Leah's After the Whistle is being featured in the One Black Podcast a Day newsletter. It's awesome. All right. I want to really thank my co-executive producer, Vash Bodie, as well as our development producer, Nicole Merritt Lester, for their work already in making this a phenomenal project. Okay, well, I lied. I do have one more shameless plug. Join live for The Conversation with Al McFarland weekdays at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time and on demand at youtube.com/Insight News. All right, now for our first featured guest, as I alluded to in our trending topics, we have a former D1 basketball player and pro basketball player, originally from New York City, Taylor Ford. Now, she left to play basketball at the University of Syracuse when she decided to go to Portugal. And then she started working in athletics and academics in 2021. She left that field and now currently works in IT. But we'll hear more about all of those, all of her career exploits in just a bit. Now, her areas of expertise are basketball, traveling, women topics, culture, and social media. And she's currently watching a lot of sci-fi shows. Let's bring Taylor in at this time. Hey, Taylor.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing pretty great. So the first thing that I want to tell you, or the first thing that I want to say is, I believe that I am 1 degree of separation from pretty much anybody on the planet. I just really feel that way. And I really feel like because we're involved in sports, that makes it that much more true. But my first degree of separation for you is when I was coaching at the University of Columbia in New York. I was recruiting several of your teammates that played for Exodus. And you guys were one of the top programs in the country. You guys just were phenomenal. And I want you to talk a little bit about that experience, and then we'll go more do a deeper dive into our connections these days.
Yeah, I mean, I think Exodus really shaped me to who I am on the court and just like personally, my experiences. A lot of those girls that I've played with growing up, they're still my friends. They're like very, very close friends. I call them sisters. And it was great because I think in New York City, being a young woman, being a young Black woman, you don't really have really good like role models. So at times, and being able to see young women who are aspired to be going to UConn, going to Baylor, going to the time Penn State that was very good, Ohio State. It was great to see something that okay, like there's a skill that I can bring and I can get myself to that level as well. So it was amazing. Also too, it helped me kind of just learn how to, I like the term grind and really work really hard because you couldn't just be subpar to get to that level. You had to be great.
No doubt.
Um, and in order to do that, you had to do a lot of sacrifices. So when you met me, I was 14 years old, if I'm correct. And
Yes.
14 years old at 6 p.m., we're practicing. And that was after school, right? And
Yes.
at that time, we were practicing in Lower East Side, Manhattan. I lived at the time in the Bronx. So it was still about like an hour commute. So it was a lot, right? And
Yes.
14 years old, I was like, I didn't want to hang out with friends. I wanted my friends were on the basketball court. My friends were my teammates. And we all had the same mindset, which was great. And I think that kind of just helped me to like where I'm at now, just like working hard for what I want and being able to sacrifice in order
Right.
to, achieve the things that I wanted to achieve.
No, no doubt. So, what do you think made the fact that you were doing this at such a young age, where you thought that you had the passion and then it was okay for you to make these other sacrifices? Did you realize it was really a sacrifice, or were you like, these are things I want to do anyway?
I didn't notice it was a sacrifice until I want to say like when I got to college.
Hmm.
Sorry,
So
can you see
when you
me?
got
It's kind of like slow in my area.
no, no worries, you're fine. We can hear you and see you just fine. Yes, so you're fine. Yes, go ahead,
Um, when I
continue.
got to college, I think when I was younger, it was just something that I was doing. Everyone, all my again, my friends were my teammates, so everyone was doing it. So it was something that I didn't realize when I got to college. When I wanted to be a little bit more independent and when I wanted to try new things, really learn who I am as a person, I think that's when I realized that it was a sacrifice because I wasn't able to do some of the things that I wanted to try as a young woman.
Right, right. So that probably leads me into my next question for you, which is, with the name of my show being Coach Leah's After the Whistle, what made you decide that it was time for you to maybe, the word pivot is a little overused, but I'll use it, and decide that there were things outside of basketball that you wanted to pursue more than basketball?
I would say kind of like while I was still playing, again, like just learning the like just understanding and going through a lot of those sacrifices. Um, it was something that I want to say around like my junior year, close going into my senior year, I realized that there was a lot more to basketball than just basketball, and I dedicated so much of my time to basketball that I really didn't experience other things. Um, Going into like senior year, I had a really tough time. When you play Division 1 for the most part at the level I played at, you don't have a Thanksgiving break and you don't have a Christmas break usually because we have tournaments and a lot of times for Christmas you're home for 2 days, but then you have to come back because you have to start ready to get ready to play for in conference play, which gets a lot more intense. And
Right.
it was hard of always missing out spending time with my family. At that time, my niece was really young, so I wasn't able to be there and like the aunt that I wanted to be because of the fact that I always had to like just leave. I was there for a hot second and I was gone. So when I left college, I wanted to try playing professionally to have that experience. And as I was doing, I was still having fun. But then I was in Portugal, which was 6 hours away from the States. So trying to still be connected to my family and my friends with a 6 hour difference was really hard. And it was like the first time I think for myself where like mentally I wasn't at a place where I was comfortable at being. And when you're a basketball player, you don't really experience or not that you don't experience. You experience it, but you don't really acknowledge your mental health issues that you're having. So when I was overseas, it was a lot for me to kind of be away and not have people that are close to me, my family and friends. So once I was done playing there, it was kind of something myself I said to myself, and I talked to my mom of like, I really wanted to now take the time to like know who Taylor is as a person. Like Taylor was overseas by herself. She did a great job, but now like who is Taylor without basketball? And that's something that I wanted to pivot to. And I didn't want, me personally, I didn't want basketball always to be the thing that I was remembered by. It was something that I'm good at, and it's something that I appreciate, and I always am grateful for that experience. But I wanted to be more than just a basketball player. So that's what made me pivot.
Well, yeah, so that leads me into my next question for you. So, what has been your greatest joy since leaving your first love of basketball?
It's experiences. Like basketball gave me a lot of experiences, but then now not playing basketball, the experience of just being able to be myself, like try things I never tried before. Being able to go surprise my friends for birthday parties, being able to go see my niece in New York, being able to do a quick trip on the weekend, just be available and be present. That's something that is huge, and I really enjoyed because I haven't always been able to be present in the moment. So, um,
So, do you think
yeah.
that that has made your life a lot different, or do you feel like that's it's been a smooth transition, or was it just like, okay, my life was like this, now it's like this, it's something completely different?
No, it was a very, very hard transition. I think like when I stopped playing basketball, I had an identity crisis because I didn't know who I was without playing basketball. I didn't know who I was without a structure and a routine of waking up at 6 a.m. and practicing and having my day planned out, um, having my life planned out. So when I stopped playing basketball, it was a lot of like, I have so much free time. And I stopped playing basketball when I was about 23, 24. Yeah, about 23. And at 23 years old, a lot of people probably kind of like knew the in and outs of what they wanted to do. But for me, it was just like, okay, now I have a whole day by myself, no one telling me what to do. What do I do? So it was hard trying to figure out that routine, and it was hard trying to figure out what I wanted. Still to this day, I still at times struggle of doing the things that I want to do. But I'm very happy with the decision that I made, and I think that every single year I kind of get better at who I am as a person, and I continue to grow. And I'm very grateful that I took that big leap of to stop playing basketball.
Nice, nice. So that leads me to actually, guys, you're making me want to unpack so much with this conversation, Taylor. This is so dope. Okay, so I know that um, being being around athletics is not as much of a big deal to you now, but you still enjoy a healthy, active lifestyle. I know that you eat as clean as you possibly can. I've seen you put together some amazing meals that are, low in carbs and low in fat and no low in sugar and all this stuff. But what are some other things that you do to help maybe stay in shape, or like, do you still work out? What are some things you do?
So I still work out. I do a lot of strength training. I think just being in the sports world, like if people I've when you don't work out, I feel very, very like unproductive. I feel like I'm not doing something when I don't work out. So I do still do strength training, but the one thing I do more now is I like to walk. Because just playing basketball, running has always been a punishment at times. So running now is not a leisure for me. Like I don't find joy in it, but I find joy in walking because I like to go on trails and walk because I like to like just listen to my music, listen to a podcast, and kind of just to take the experience in. So that's something that I enjoy, and I try to do that as much as possible.
Have you found some really great places to hike in the Houston Metroplex?
Not yet. I haven't been on a hike in a while, but there is a trail in the Heights. I don't know the name of it. I just know how to drive there. It's pretty long, but it's a place I visit frequently. There's a gym that I go called Misfit Strength. I work out there 3 times a week. So there's it's just about 5 minutes away. So after I do my workout, if I have extra time, I'll go and do a nice little like 2 mile walk just to like flush my legs out.
Nice. So now I happen to know that you are somebody who loves science fiction. Like, how did you realize that that was something that you just really like, really enjoy?
I've always liked it. My brother and sisters were very into like Harry Potter and stuff like that. So, I just started realizing when I was as I got older that I always watched like anime because my sister liked Sailor Moon. So it was something that I liked. I like the fact that it's not reality. Like it's something different. It's kind of something that you can make up. So ever since I was young, I always watched cartoons. I think people who know me, like when I like to calm down and just wind down, I'll put on like animation. So it would just be a TV show that's cartoon or a movie. Um, and yeah, I'm a big Marvel fan. So I guess to answer your question, since I was young, I will pick a sci-fi action movie over a rom-com any day.
Oh wow, that's very, you know, you don't like to think that, you know, sci-fi and all that stuff is only for guys or whatever, but I find that fascinating that you really are really into science fiction. That's cool. So I'm going to do a quick pivot and ask you about things that are inspiring to you. And you have an inspirational quote that's
Hmm.
pretty important here. If you'd like to read that to us, Taylor, and then tell us what that means for you.
Hmm. It's if you want the rainbow, you have to put up with the rain. Good old Dolly Parton. It means a lot to me because I think just again, I'm born and raised in New York. I don't live there anymore, but uh, to get to where I've been, to get to where I'm at now, it's been a long, long journey, and I couldn't have just been there. Just I couldn't have gotten there with just doing whatever. Like there was a lot of trials and errors that I had to go through in order to get to where I'm at. So I think I love that quote because again, like if you want to see the end result, something beautiful, you have to go through a lot of things that people don't want to get through. So you have to go through the mud, you have to go through the grind, because at the end of the day, it's going to pay out. It's just always not pleasant trying to get through it.
Well, I will tell you, it's always been really, really fun being connected to you. And full disclosure, Taylor is like a daughter to me. And I'm so grateful to have you as a part of my life and for all of these years. Gosh, it's been well over 10 years already. And but you're somebody who I can really relate to as you've been going through your journey, because you know I played Division 1 at a high level. We won a lot of, you know, won a lot of games, you know, and we're ranked nationally and things of that nature. And there are not a lot of people on this planet that have that experience. And so to be able to listen to you and some of the things that you've been through, maybe to offer some guidance every now and then, but even more so how you, especially when I went back into coaching, kind of helped me to see and understand maybe the mindset of some of our players that are competing these days. I am just so proud of you, and I just wish the best of you for everything that's going to happen for your future. So that leads me to my next question. How do you think your fact that you work in technology, IT, talk a little bit about that and what role does that play in your life?
It's something again like sci-fi. It's something kind of like goes hand in hand. A lot of TV shows and movies have technology in it. I'm also an avid video gamer, so I've always loved being in that field. It was something I wanted to do prior to COVID. Because of COVID, I was able to kind of do a lot more of studying to help me get there. But technology is ever just it's ever changing and it's so fast paced, and it's kind of very similar to basketball. In practices, everything is extremely fast paced. You move on the fly. You learn something. You take what you learn and you implement it to something different. So with tech, it's the same exact thing.
Hmm.
We work in teams, which is kind of like something I'm used to. And again, it's like if the team's not successful, then you're not successful. So I find good joy. I find great joy actually in being able to connect with my teammates, kind of problem solve, and kind of just bounce off ideas with each other because we're all experts in what we do.
Hmm.
And that's what the fun part about it is. And also too, in technology, you're always learning. Like we can have a project and we know what we're supposed to do, at the start of the project, but throughout the project, things can change, things can break, and we're continuously learning how to fix it. So by the end of the project, we can learn 3 new skills that we didn't have in the beginning, which is great. Because again, you can then take that to the next project. So I definitely like it. It's something that is challenging, and I think just with who I am and who I want to continue to be, I always want to be challenged, and that's the biggest thing for me.
So continuing to connect with people, why is that so important for you?
It's important because it's as funny as it is. As I've gotten older, I like to be a little less social, but when I am social, I like to really connect with people. So being able to share ideas and share experiences, I think being overseas taught me a lot of like understanding people's point of views and understanding people's perspectives is a huge thing because if you're able to do that, then you're able to learn a lot about yourself and you're able to be more knowledgeable. A lot of times when you don't connect with people, you kind of get very like stuck in your own view of what you think is right and what is wrong, and that's not the way to go about life. So it's big to just know what other people are thinking and how I can like learn from that.
That is so just incredible. That is such an incredible way to I would say just to live your life. And speaking of living your life, what is next for you on your journey?
Oof.
Great
Um,
question, huh?
that's a great question. I hope that I mean I do it a little bit. I do a little basketball training on the side, but I would hope to continue to take what I've learned and kind of share with the youth. I know things are very, very different in the world of social media, but just give them guidance because at the end of the day, um, even if I talk to 5 kids and one listens, that's better than zero. So just being able to just take what I've learned and take all the knowledge and what I'm going to continue to learn and share it is big. I'm hoping, maybe in the long run, I can create my own podcast with some of my old teammates to kind of share our experience of how we view like sports today and how it's so different from when we played. So that's something that I would love to do in the future. Just don't know when yet, but it's something that's always been on my mind.
Nice. Well, whenever you're ready for that, I would love to see how we can bless you with our platforms to see how we can support you. Um, but I do have a question before I ask my final question. So these are the last two. The
Mhm.
first one is you alluded to how things are different with social media. With NIL being such a huge driver for athletes that are at the level you were at. I feel like you missed NIL by just a little bit, right?
Mhm.
But you were able to work with athletes as they were beginning NIL when you were the academic advisor for South Carolina women's basketball. And of course, many of those players have huge, very lucrative, and very important NIL deals. What are your thoughts about NIL and where do you see it going in the next, even just 5 years?
Yeah, so I wasn't actually give me 1 second. This is so crazy. My computer's going to die. Give me one hot second.
It happens, folks. It
It
happened to me.
happens. It's
It happened to
so
me
bad.
last week. Oh my gosh.
So I think with NIL deals, um, I think it's a blessing and a curse, but I think it all depends on the people you have behind you, kind of helping you out. I think it's a blessing because at the end of the day, as athletes, you put your body and your mind through a lot, and it's nice to be rewarded for your success. The bad thing about it is you don't the bad thing about it is a lot of times some of these athletes, won't say all, they get so fixated on doing it for the fame and the money and not doing it for themselves and the team. That's where it kind of gets a little sticky. And just also to the competition but then between teammates, because then if one person is having a lot more success than another person, that can cause a little bit of friction within the team. So again, blessing and the curse. We didn't have that situation when I was working with athletics. They were in talks of it. They didn't initiate it at that time. So I don't really know how it actually affected teammates as much. But I hope that in the future, um, it it gets bigger, and allows, especially for WNBA players to be able to monetize that after college, and not just be just something that's in college, because again, a lot of people are popular in college, but as they get to the professional leagues, they kind of die down. So I
Yeah.
hope that just some more knowledge and more endorsements for them, because it's great.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. I know or even when I was still coaching at the Division I level back in 2000, in the early 2000s, I would say, and we were talking about that in our meetings. And many of us, especially many of us that were former players, were always like, the sweat equity needs to mean more than just lining the pockets of the coaches and the administrators. That's for sure. Final question. How do people follow you on social media?
So if you go on my Instagram, you probably won't see I don't post, but I'm alive. So you can follow me. My Instagram name is Tay, so TAY_NIC 22. You'll find me there, and then I usually do post on my story. But again, I'm good on social media. I just gotta get a little more active. I think like as I get older, I'm kind of like shying away from it. But I'm alive, people, so you can find me there.
She's very much alive and well and doing really great things in the Houston Metroplex. Taylor, thank you so much for joining us
Of
today.
course.
And I'm so proud of you. And we've got to have you back soon because there's a few other things that I would love to talk to you about, especially in the IT space, because there's a lot that is coming to the forefront with basketball analytics and IT. And I know that you're somebody that can be very informative in that space. So thank you again.
Absolutely.
All right, well, Taylor's getting out of here, guys, and we have another somebody amazing to talk with you guys, talk to you guys about. And her name is, well, I call her Dr. Rowe. Dr. Rowe Schmidt is an author, management, and ministry consultant and international speaker. She is dubbed a humble servant leader while using versatility to empower her clients and help them meet professional and personal goals. Dr. Rowe was CEO of a tax accounting firm for 20 plus years prior to transitioning into academia for 12 combined years as a business professor. She pivoted the gamut of skills and theology studies into her current role as CEO of Truth with Grace Consulting, specializing in management consulting for corporations, academic and religious institutions, individuals, and nonprofit organizations like mine. She has been featured in The Washington Post, New York Times, USA Today, on MTV, ESPN, CNN, and a plethora of radio shows. Dr. Rowe's happiness is derived from serving God, spending time with her husband, children, and bonus children. She also serves the elderly population in need of advocates for abused, suicidal, kidnapped, and underprivileged children. Her personal mission is to be a beacon to everyone she encounters. To learn more about her background and books, please visit www.drrolanda.com. Let's bring Dr. Rowe in.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hello, sister. How are you?
I am blessed, just truly hot in Texas.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes. The word shocked is not the right word, but I pleasantly pleased to know that you're just right up the road in Texas.
Yeah.
And because of course I first met you in Minnesota. I was had the chance to meet you and then recruit your daughter, and just and then to me the rest is history. We haven't been talking all the time, but I feel like we've stayed connected over all of these years, and so I just I look at your body of work and I'm like, man, I see why we connected because there's so many things that we have gravitated towards or have leaned into, during our adult life. And then one of the things that I know that we connect with is the fact that we've been running all over the country, following our kids, playing all these sports. That's one thing. And I truly believe that as I say with all of our guests, I'm 1 degree of separation, and that's definitely ours. The fact that we saw each other in different gyms, saw each other in different venues, and because we were doing this momming thing, this sports mom thing. So, talk to me a little bit about your your time being the mom of athletic children.
Sure. So I have a total of 7 children, 4 biological, 3 bonus. All of them were athletes at some point in their lives. My biological children, who I pretty much raised at those times, are Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3 athletes. And my son, who's in heaven, was a soccer player. So I've been that basketball mom, volleyball mom, track mom, as well as, let's see, soccer. They played about everything. So just going to AAU, seeing, coaches like yourself in the schools, AAU at a high level, and then having all of the different divisions. It's been a blessing as a mom, but it's a lot of work.
No doubt, no doubt. So, what do you think? What is the one thing that you miss about those days?
I love just the competitiveness of watching my children excel at what they do. Now, I probably seem to other people like I'm this sweet mom, but I'm one of those people that I have like the silent look, and I hate to admit this to you on the show, but I'd be the parent that would sit on the opposite side with the opposing team, and I wasn't edging them, but I'd be cheering for my kids in the middle like, no, no. And, I feel like that's a healthy way to still cheer them on. But man, it would get the other side so riled up. And
No doubt.
I miss that.
No doubt. So, the way I connect with that is this. Many people, especially my kids that played on these different teams, the other parents that knew that I coached would ask me a million questions or would say things and then want to see what my reaction be with what they'd say, or if they had a comment about the coach, they want to see if I agree with them and stuff. And it honestly became really tiring. And so I, like you, would sit on the opposite side, not where the opposing players' parents were, not because I wanted to necessarily rile anybody up or cheer for my kid extra loud, which I did from time to time, but because I could just enjoy the game. I could just sit and just relax and just, and plus I always had a little different perception of what I was looking at anyway. So I would enjoy watching my kid, but because of the fact that I just have been a student of the game, would be watching it and dissecting it in other different ways, and would want to do that and would want to listen and talk to a parent during the entire game. So yeah, but speaking of that, in watching our kids play and compete, what are your thoughts about transgender women playing in women's sports?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I believe that it's important to acknowledge each person as a human being. Nonetheless, I'm speaking scientifically, not even about my own child or anyone else, but scientifically. It doesn't mean that women are weaker than men or anything like that, but I know biologically the percentage is that a male would be stronger than a woman. And that is just my opinion. And so when someone goes to a game, let's say, and they see somebody who's worked all their life for a trophy, and then another person comes along that may have had enhancement to be at a certain level, it's like to me a disadvantage. So I personally just don't agree with the competition in that nature. I don't know what the answer is. I've heard people say, have your own category. I don't know if that's the answer. What I do know is being fair is important, but also showing love. And so, how do you marry the two? I'm not really sure.
Sure, sure. So you alluded a little bit, and I didn't mean to ask a loaded question, but you are the mother of a transgender Division I athlete, and how do you reconcile your transgender child with your faith?
Well, uh, 14 years ago, when that story first broke, I was not prepared necessarily, and it's not anyone's fault or anything. It's just I wasn't prepared. I don't believe that my child was prepared either. I have always put God first in everything that I do, and it's been hard. I have made mistakes. Used to beat my child metaphorically over the head with the Bible, saying, God said this and the Bible says this. That may be true, but that is not the way to generate love. And it's taken this time frame over these years to sit back and kind of meditate on how do I speak the truth with love? How do I agree to disagree? How do I show love, but yet try to be honoring to my child? It's a work in progress. We still have a good relationship where we talk. I would never like shut the door on my child and say, you can't come to my house. I mean, in fact, we were just together for Christmas here in Texas. Um, but I still disagree with a lot of things. And I've said this publicly before that I love every individual, just like God loves me. I have done things wrong and God's going to love me, but I just don't agree. I feel like biologically, there's just certain things you can't change because God made you a certain way. And that's just me. I'm not being anything but mom. And so, as a mother, it's like one day you see your child as one thing. And then when they get older and they become who they are and they tell you, Mom, this is who I am, it's like a death in the family. It's like you have to get used to so many different things. My name is different. Like for me, it took me 3 years to call my child something else. And when I was interviewed before by ESPN and other avenues, they said, would you ever call your child by a different name? And I was like, absolutely not. Well, it took 3 years for me to do that. And I still make mistakes. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah. I
it's just,
think that your transparency is so remarkable, and I know that it helps others that are in very similar situations, and there's thousands that are in similar situations as you. No one would ever truly know because they don't have a platform that you have. Um, and then, I applaud you for your transparency because it will help the conversations, it will help the understanding, and there's so many people throwing the word around as far as self-care and mental health and things of that nature, and but the fact that we're not having these conversations is a huge reason why there are so many people that are feeling confused or that have mental health issues. So, what do you think is the state of mental health in the Black community, and what are you doing? Because I know this is a passion of yours to reshape that.
yes. So it's interesting. About 13 years ago, and I get a little emotional about it. I remember when my child's story broke, and the way it broke was not necessarily the right way. Like if I were talking to you privately and I said something, and then the next day you find out it's in the New York Times and everywhere else, you're like, so
Mm.
God gave me a way to handle it, but I wasn't prepared. And what I realized, and my oldest has talked about this publicly, so I will repeat it publicly. I usually try to ask first, but this was said publicly. My oldest wanted and tried to, or at least said, I wanted to take my life. And to hear that from your child is gut wrenching. So back then, I didn't know how to handle that. Slowed my roll and I stopped listening to other people and I listened to God. And I said, God, tell me what you want to show me. And God was saying to me at the time, be present, be mindful. And anytime I was in a space where I was with people that identify as transgender, I would just try to listen more than I spoke so that I could understand where they were coming from. And where God shifted me was someone said, and this is on that mental health part, the person wanted my autograph. And I said, why do you want my autograph? We were at this big SB event or whatever. And the person said, my dad is a pastor and doesn't speak to me. And I've wanted to kill myself so many times. And I said, what? And then after we talked, I found out that this had been going on for 21 years with this individual. It cut my soul, but I still didn't know what to do with it. Fast forward, my younger child, who is not transgender, took his life over his girlfriend, and I lost him 4 years ago. And that is the reason why I have blue on today for suicide awareness, autism, and his favorite color. But it dawned on me like an aha moment. Wait a minute. Here are the transgender community killing themselves, some people, when people reject them. Here, my youngest son was rejected over a relationship, and he chose to take the way out. But it showed me again, this is a ministry. God has, I didn't ask for any of this. I am in pain. I still miss him every single day, but it helped me marry the love of what I do to ministry. I know that God has given me a voice to walk into a community and talk about something that nobody wants to talk about, which is how do you show love in the transgender community? The other part is Black children, male and female, do take their lives. So stop saying for people that that doesn't happen in our community, because it's not true.
Not true at all.
18. He's 18, senior in high school. 2 weeks after his 18th birthday, he took his life in 3 minutes before a call that I got from the school, which they didn't tell me what was happening, but they knew because of a text. I get a knock on my door and the police are at my door, and I'm like, hello, and they step in, and we all heard him leave this earth. So fast forward, trauma therapy, God, support has brought me to this point. And so I say that to answer your question, that mental health in the Black community is essential at the force. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't affect every other community. It's just that I believe that sometimes we are not taking this seriously in our own community, and we don't understand what's happening with our kids behind closed doors. We need to talk to them, check their text, get in their business, even if they don't want you to. Tell them you love them, be present. And whether they're an athlete or not, just be there for your kids and listen to them. And when you don't know what to do, for me, I'm a woman of faith, so I say pray, but also not be afraid to talk to a professional, like a therapist or a psychologist, to get professional help, because they can help you kind of iron out the things that we're not able to, and then marry that to God, and God has it all. We can do all things through Christ who gives us strength.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So while you were saying that, something that occurred to me is one of the passions of mine is getting more young people to get certified in mental health first aid. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. So many times I ask people that are in high schools that are teaching, social workers, people that are working around youth, are you certified in mental health first aid? And they're like, what is that? And it unnerves me. So I'm going to put you on the spot right here, Dr. Roy. I want you to be someone that helps me to get mental health first aid into as many high schools in the country as we can, to get more of us certified so that we can teach others how to be certified as well, because it is so important. And it's important for peers, for other young people to identify those, just like when you're putting a Band-Aid because you just had a little cut. Well, you decided a Band-Aid was needed because you saw the little cut, and then there was a first aid kit. You just went to the first aid kit. You knew it was going to be in there. You grabbed the Band-Aid, put it on. There might not be anything else wrong, but at least you've stopped that. Same thing with mental health first aid. And so I'm looking forward to you working with me on that, since you are my sister.
Funny you say that, because my seminary, and I just, pivoted again in a career to add that theology, but I have like my last class coming up in the next couple of weeks here. And they talked about the certification for this. So I actually take it on the 14th myself. And, there's nothing wrong with continuing education. It's not to add titles. It's so that we have a voice and another lens to see things that maybe other people can't see. But in our community, it's like we shy away from, oh, getting help or letting somebody know I'm not okay. And it's okay. It is okay to take a break, to just relax. And, when you're not okay, let somebody know. And I advocate, I don't get anything for this, but I say text 988 or call them, but also know that sometimes that might not be the answer for some people either. So you be the support system, whoever's listening to this, be the support system for that person and take control to help get them some kind of professional help.
Absolutely. Now, you have a podcast entitled Uncovering Truth with Grace.
Yeah.
So, what is the truth? What truth are you uncovering?
Well, sure. As a woman of faith, most Christians would think, okay, she's talking about the truth, and I am. But I also like to dig into the truth of whatever the story is we're talking about. My first love is management, so I've kind of married that to ministry. So I find locations and people who are leaders in their field. Sometimes it's at home, they're leaders in any genre, and I let them talk about their stories. And sometimes it's just me speaking just about life and things that come to my heart that I believe that people should know. But I always uncover the truth of whatever the matter is with grace.
That is so awesome. I, again, I've just always just loved you and loved talking with you and love the fact that you live up the road. So now we can visit with each other more.
I believe this
um,
years in Minnesota, and now I'm in the hot state of Texas.
Yeah, it's so funny because people will always ask me, being from Minnesota, how do I like living in Texas? I'm like, I love it. There was a reason why I left Minneapolis. Now, I will say that I love going back to visit, especially this time of year. I'll be back up there in August again to visit for my, I'm going to tell my age, 40th high school class reunion.
Wow, you look really great. Black don't crack for real, and that's wonderful. But I will
Thank you.
also be there in August. My son, who passed away, is being honored for the organs that he gave, during his passing. So I'll be there in Minnesota, and he's buried there. So I'll always be there. My heart is always there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, Insight News, which is the base for everything that we're doing for our project, is based out of Minneapolis, and so I'm still the homegirl. I will still share stories with the perspective of being there, and am very proud that I was born and raised there. That's for sure. But I am saying that I will say that I enjoy being in the heat and being in the hot and not the cold and not having to shovel any snow. That's for sure.
I'm originally from Florida too, so heat is good, but Minnesota, I do miss it. I'm just gonna say that. Not the cold, but the family orientation and just the love of Minneapolis and St. Paul. It's so beautiful. So I do miss it. We'll see what Texas brings, but either way, both you and I will always be advocating for the same things, and that's nurturing athletes, people, our community, and anyone else who is a child of God.
Yes, indeed. So you spoke about your pivot, going into doing a deeper dive into theology. But what is next for you on your journey?
So now that seminary is just about over, I have learned that I have a gift that I didn't really recognize. They require us to do a internship while we were in seminary. So I got a chance to preach, teach, also do chaplaincy. So I was at HCMC for a year in the trauma hospital, and it was shocking because, as you know, the trauma I experienced with my son, I was able in my first visit, without divulging information, just to be there for a family. They call it the walk of honor. So when someone passes away, people line up in the hospital and you watch them, go to give their organs. Well, my son was able to help an African American in Minnesota. Shout out to the Kappas, and I can name them. That's Damon. Attorney Damon Ward got my son's left kidney, and 73 other people were helped because of it. So I have been able to do what someone else did for me in that very special moment for others. So my next goal is being a part-time chaplain, but using the other time for my ministry as a ministry and management consultant for churches and people to continue to help them grow.
Okay, so we got to get out of here, but really quick, how can we find you on social media?
All of my handles are Dr. Ro Schmidt, just like you see my name. So DRRO Schmidt. I'm German chocolate by marriage. So
I love it. German chocolate.
SCHMIDT. And then you can always, I'm in Instagram, Facebook, any of that is Dr. Ro Schmidt. But you can go to my website, Dr. Rolanda. That's my full name. DRROLANDA.com, and then you'll see my handles there to reach me.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to having your daughter, who is a pro volleyball player, joining us in a upcoming episode of Coach Leah's After the Whistle. But so thanks again. Dr. Rowe is getting out of here. But before we go, I would be remiss to not talk about this. Shout out to my girl, Kim Roxy. We are honoring her today as our Community Collaborator of the Week. Kim Roxy is founder of Lamique Beauty, and it's the world's number one eco-chic makeup line, and seeking to build women's self-esteem and reveal their natural beauty. And she gifted me with this cute little frock that I'm wearing today a while back, and she's a little sister of mine, and I'm so proud of her. She does a ton of work in the community, but she's been all over here lately. Most of her products, all of her products are made environmentally conscious with a message for multicultural women. Her message is, beauty is revealed, not applied. Recently, she was featured on CBS. Is it called CBS This Morning? There we go. CBS This Morning, and interviewed by Gayle King. If I were you, I would look up, just Google Google Kim Roxy and CBS with Gayle King, and you can see that entire episode. But we'll have Kim Roxy as a featured guest real soon. She's done a lot of work with the WNBA as well. All right, folks. Well, that is another dynamic episode of Coach Leah's After the Whistle. Thank you for spending your day with us, your time with us, whenever you have a chance to hop in here. We will see you next time. Have an amazing day.